okay? And
Yeah.
Etzion from Haifa, Israel. Today is the 1st of February 2025. As a traditionally, we start with musical piece. And this piece is from 6-7 years ago, while I was still living in the town of Mehera Zion. It is a small town, 10 kilometers westward of Jerusalem, on the way to Tel Aviv. And there I participated in the musical band, and we went to perform one of the most important concert halls of Jerusalem. Hope you liked it. You heard it? You are muted.
Beautiful.
Yeah, this is a Israeli national anthem.
Yes, I know. It's beautiful.
Hatikva, the hope. The Jewish people were, the past 2,000 years for the destruction of the temple, were praying next year in Jerusalem. So this somebody recorded, wrote it 100 years ago, and we started the Jewish people, the aspirations to come back to the Holy Land. Eventually they did, somehow. The fact that this country exists against all the odds, against our neighbors, for whatever reason, not acceptable in the traditional Islam as it was established 200 years after Muhammad, that no other religion is legitimate since Muhammad is the last prophet. All the others are obsolete, falsified, or whatever it is. But it's not true. And as we are learning, of course, I'm not getting involved in politics, definitely not here. I don't wish to do it. But Israel is the only place on earth where the spoken language is Hebrew, and the original text of the Torah, which was given to Moses by the Avatar. The Avatar and Moses wrote down the Torah scroll, what we call today the Torah, or book of the Pentateuch, the 5 books of Moses. It was given to humanity by Master Moses and the Avatar. They were meeting together, whether this was a mountain or a spiritual plan, it doesn't matter of course, at such advanced souls, this world is just a mirage. And we will learn later on. We already started to study the book of Genesis, the story of Abraham the patriarch. He actually, also Baba stated that he was an avatar. And we learned that sometimes the book of Genesis, the patriarchs, we learned already from the story of Cain and Abel. Cain murders Abel, and there are many such problematic issues with all this story, which is dedicated for the healing of humanity back to its spiritual stance, which is unfortunately is not succeeding till now. All the masters avatars who walked on earth succeeded in their mission to plant the seed and open the path for us, but we failed to walk the path. We don't understand it. And while I bring the physical peace, here is a group of individuals who still capable, even the earthly people. They don't do it with their divine focus, but are eager, interested to work together with harmony under the directive of a human being, the conductor, to produce the music. Otherwise, the music will never be able to be manifested in this physical plane. So if ordinary people can work together with harmony, where we are the spiritual people who cannot, we simply cannot do it, unfortunately. Okay, we'll continue a little bit with our reading of the book of Genesis. Then we will still have time. I'll tell you a little bit of some Baba story, some personal Baba story. Here you are. Are you hiding? There it is. Last week we came here. There is a war in the land of Canaan, which today we call it the Promised Land, the land of Israel. The Gentiles when the British took over this land from the Ottoman Empire in 1917, they called it Palestine, Eretz Israel. That's the name of it. Even the Arabs never call it Palestine, but of course we're not dealing with politics, it doesn't matter. Palestine was the land of the Philistines who lived in more or less Gaza Strip 3,000 years ago. It was a Hellenistic tribe, and they lived there for a long time till they were ousted by the kingdom of Ashur, and maybe later on by the Romans, or whatever. It doesn't matter. So whatever reason this name stuck, but there never was, besides this Hellenistic kingdom, anything to do with the Arabs. And there never was such a place of Palestine, Palestinians in the Arabic kingdoms or empire. They call it Janub el-Sham, southern Syria. But it doesn't matter. I'm not getting involved with all this. This is all human beings and their childish nonsense possessing land. The land doesn't belong to anyone. She's our mother, and we came to serve the mother and not to possess it. That's all. So if you could call it this name or that name, everything is false. It doesn't matter. But the name of Israel is the state of the perfect master. Israel, and we learn later on in the book of Genesis, that when Jacob, his name was turned into Israel because he moved from the sixth plane to the seventh plane, he became a perfect master, and the name in the Torah of the person who achieved the seventh planes is Israel. We learn it later on. The book of Genesis is being dedicated for the process of creating states of consciousness till we reach the supreme consciousness of Israel, or as I call it, the Shabbos day, the seventh day, represents the state of perfections when we individuals merge again in the oneness of Godhood with cosmic consciousness. This is the goal of creation. It is being portrayed in the book of Genesis. And the book of Genesis is the first version of God speaks, the theme of creation. And it tells what God speaks say. Of course, by Meherabad, his elucidation is very different than the book of Moses. It's more updated, but whatsoever Baba said has been encapsulated in this book as well. King of Justice. Now there was a war, and Abraham met some individual, King of Salem, Melchi Tzedek, King of Justice. Melchi in Hebrew, Melech is king, Malik in Arabic, the same. Tzedek is justice. I don't know how to say justice in Arabic, but we are not having here the course in languages. King of Justice is the representative of Yahweh Elohim on earth. And it is he who mentors Abraham to his work on earth. Even the avatar is to be initiated. And we have seen it very well with the life of Meherabad. He had 5 masters, so initiated him and established him for his work. And here there is this vague mention of this King of Justice, the king of the city of Jerusalem, 3,500 years ago, since Judean desert, a very small city those days. It was a very harsh place, living on you could live only from a little bit agriculture. There were no minerals, no running water, nothing. And you had to keep goats, herds of animals. And that was the only way to survive. In this short sentence quoted here in the Torah, the initiation ceremony ends. Although Abraham is also a representative emissary of Jehovah's circle on earth. Haha, found a mistake. Thank you. Okay. Correct it later. What I said is Yahweh Elohim circle is a fraternity of the perfect masters. This is being established. The manyness, oneness was differentiated to manyness. All of us is an individual drop of the ocean of oneness. And the whole point of this sojourn as personal individuals is to come back to oneness, but with perfect or cosmic consciousness, super consciousness. This is what we are going to understand. So I use this term of Yahweh Elohim as an example or testament of establishing or fulfilling the path from manyness back to oneness. Usually, such a representative must go through a shortened process of attaining a superconscious and thus also reopening the path to the people who came to serve. The phenomenon that a person who has completed his work on earth and returns to the earthly sphere to help people is extremely rare, but it is a fact. When such a person is born again, the very course of his life opens up a spiritual path that people are walking in their ignorance to destroy. Such a person acts voluntarily. He takes upon himself the immense suffering of dealing with an ignorant and dark world that usually plots to destroy such a person. But if such a person is destroyed, the entire human race will be destroyed, because then the spiritual path will be permanently blocked. There will no longer be justification for the existence of the human race, which will destroy itself. I would like to go down again. We spoke in the past about this, about the cosmic engine. Let me look at it again. This is a cosmic engine. I made this sketch or drawing during 1984. I wrote this book. As I explained during the money talk, we spoke about money, that after she refused my work, whatsoever I was doing, I went to Baba Samadhi and I was writing. I wrote a book, and this book appears on my website, Torah of Mankind, and somewhere I made this drawing based on some hints from God Speaks. I made a simplification, and this chart tells us what is this cosmic engine. An individual is being born here from the ocean of divinity. You call it unconscious divinity, is a sleep state. And then you wake up, you enter this process of existence in the physical world. You cannot see it so clearly, but here it's a little bit gray, and this is white. It's a little bit grayish. It's a bottom. I don't know if you see it from like this. Here you can see it now. I magnified it a little bit. Yes, it can be seen. So what's happening? The individuals constantly must enter this evolutionary path. It is an obligation. We cannot choose together or not. It is a force. It's a never force nobody can resist. And we actually, this is our will, to go back to attain godhood, conscious divinity. We want, here we're sleeping, here in a dormant state, and this is infinitude. And as if one side of infinitude is sleeping at night, and the other side is awake in daylight. How can this be? This is a mystery of creation. It could be God, can be this kind of supposedly two states, that is unconscious and conscious at the same time. This mystery of creation, we cannot understand it till we'll reach here, till we'll merge back. Then we'll understand why is this game. Now what it is, why it is, I call it the cosmic engine, because non-stop, see what's happening with the motor, with the electric motor. Individuals, which we call electrons, they are individuals with consciousness. They are God beings, being pushed by force to one side of the engine, and this has to force the engine to rotate, and then it creates some work. And if you push these electrons and the engine is stuck and it's not rotating, it will burn. Now what it is, the biggest circle is humanity. Purpose of humanity is like the gearbox in the car. We have to adjust the movement of the souls, of all the job souls still here. This is our issue. Now, since we dropped out of what we call the Garden of Eden, then we actually refuse to continue doing our spiritual work. We created a jam of this movement, and this jam appears on earth with constant wars and plagues and tribulation and sicknesses and upheaval and volcano, whatsoever is happening on this physical plane is due to the fact that humanity blocked the movement. So in order to continue moving it, we need to push it by force. And when we push it by force, then what's happening is some devastation. This unfortunately is the situation, but we have to look at it because this is We'll go back to our where we stopped. We have to understand this principle. You can say it in this on my website. You can see this chart on my website, meherabaisrael.com. You can find it on the English side, Story of Master. So I wish. After these things, the word of the Lord came unto Abraham in a vision. I think I skipped here something. Just a minute, I have to go back there, sorry. One may ask if Melchizedek also represents Yahweh Elohim. Why wasn't he not the man who united systems of creation together? In fact, each of us can decide to become a member of Yahweh circle. To keep on editing this book, and there's no end to it. But not everyone has the abilities that Abraham had. The avatar has capabilities that all the five perfect masters now realize people combined cannot do. This is very hard to explain to the human mind because they don't understand. You have to walk for some time with the avatar himself and the perfect masters and to say, why is this? Cannot be explained. It's very hard to explain. Not everyone has the abilities that Abraham had, even between the higher levels of consciousness. There are degrees, and in fact, it is endless. Abraham was born perfect, but he chose to return to the ignorant, conscious state for a while. And when he acts to return to the Shabbos consciousness, which is the seventh plane, also, he paves the way for the entire humanity to re-establish the Shabbos consciousness. Sometimes I call this the perfect state, the seventh day or the Shabbos. Shabbos is from the word seven, Sheva. We call it Yom Shabbat. Shabbat, it's all derived from seven, from Sheva. After these things, the word of the Lord came unto Abraham in a vision, saying, Fear not, Abraham, I am thy shield. Thy reward shall be exceeding great. And Abraham said, O Lord God, what wilt thou give me, seeing I go hence childless? And he that shall be possessor of my house is Eliezer of Damascus. Eliezer of Damascus was his responsible for all his estate. And Abraham was a very wealthy person. He had an army of more than 300 people. He had tons of silver and gold, etc. And Abraham said, Behold, to me thou hast given no seed, and lo, one born in my house is to be mine heir. And behold, the word of the Lord came unto him, saying, This man shall not be thine heir, but he that shall come forth out of thine own bowels shall be thine heir. And he brought him forth abroad and said, Look now toward heaven and count the stars, if thou be able to count them. And he said unto him, So shall thy seed be. And he believed in the Lord, and he counted it to him for righteousness. And he said unto him, I am the Lord that brought thee out of Ur of the Chaldees to give thee this land to inherit it. This came from Mesopotamia, more or less Iraq, between Iraq and Syria, more or less today. To give you thee this land to inherit it. And here God tells Abraham, the patriarch, he draws the borders of the promised land. And there is no nation in the world that God drew the borders of the nation. O Lord God, whereby shall I know that I shall inherit it? And he said unto him, check me, Haifa of 3 years old, and a she-goat of 3 years old, and a ram of 3 years old, and a churchill dove, and a young pigeon. And he took they him all these, and divided them in the midst, and laid each half over against the other, but the birds divided he not. And the birds of prey came down upon the carcasses, and Abraham drove them away. Here we see for the first time the pattern of animal sacrifices before the Lord for a very good reason. And we spoke about Cain and Abel. The both of them offered sacrifices to the Lord, and Cain offered burnt or sacrificed vegetables, and Abel sacrificed animals or sheep. And supposedly, according to the first chapter of Genesis, Lord gave us as our diet only fruit and vegetables. Lord created the creation, didn't have any bloodshed whatsoever in the beginning, according to the Torah at least. And God favors the sacrifice of animals, of the animals, and we explained it that Cain did, it represented the work we do inside ourselves. Cain and Abel are two aspects of our mental state. We have this good and evil within us, light and darkness, and these two powers are conflicting within ourselves. Which work shall we do? And Hevel is focused on the divine, on spirituality, and Cain is focused on the successes of the earth. And Cain is doing, supposedly obeying the Lord, the vegetarian Lord, and he sacrifices vegetables. But the hint is that it's actually the inner work of destroying sanskaras, and the vegetable sanskaras are superficial, and the animal sanskaras are the real, very heavy sanskaras with die and solidify deep within our subconscious mind. It's very hard to eject, very hard to destroy. So Hevel is doing the real spiritual internal work. And when Cain kills Hevel, which is an internal happening, which is happening within each of us all the time, then actually the real work is not being done internally. So here is a symbol in the book of Moses. There's constantly sacrificing animals and shedding the blood and burning it on the altar before the Lord, etc. We should look at it as the real way of destroying the hearts of scars and becoming free. That's a simile. Know for sure it is that thy seed shall be a stranger in a land that is not theirs, and shall serve them, and they shall afflict them 400 years. And also that nation whom they shall serve will I judge. And afterward shall they come out with great substance. But thou shalt go to thy fathers in peace, thou shalt be buried in a good old age. And in the fourth generation they shall come back hither, back to Canaan. For the iniquity of the Amorite is not yet full. Amorite, one of the kingdoms, lived in Canaan. So if they keep on walking, this one of these nations, foreign nations, the karma was not over yet. They have to keep on walking there till they would fulfill and finish the walk. And when the children of Israel came back after 400 years, they had to drive away or remove or convert all the nations who stayed in Canaan. They were all of them small nations, a few thousand, a few tens of thousands, that's all. But when the sun went down and there was thick darkness, behold, a smoking furnace and a flaming torch that passed between these pieces. In that day the Lord made a covenant with Abraham, saying, unto thy seed have I given this land, from the river of Egypt unto the great river, the river of Euphrates. He gave it to the heir, to the spiritual heir of Abraham, and we see later on, Abraham had two sons. One son came from since his wife, Sarah, was barren, she couldn't give birth. So Sarah, it was a tradition, we'll see this tradition later on. She gave him her maid, so the child of the maid, it actually will be the child of Sarah, of his wife. There was some kind of ancient tradition. These days we are not doing it anymore, not like this at least. And we will study the story later on. It's crucial to understand it, all this process of establishing a spiritual family on earth, which meant to rehabilitate humanity. Abraham came to establish the mechanism by which the human race would be restored to its spiritual role on earth. It establishes the earthly basis on which this mechanism, which is in fact the people of Israel, can operate. For all sorts of reasons, a country was chosen that stretches roughly from the Sinai Desert to the borders of Iraq today. Roughly what covered the boundaries of the British mandate after the conquest of Palestine in 1917. This article has no political intentions and does not deal with the status of the peoples today within the land of Israel, but there is a spiritual reference. I guess you learned all the way through, and I have been giving all these talks. I think it will be hard to find that I give take pro and cons for this one or against this one. My placement on the Jewish Israeli side, and this is my responsibility. And what's happening on the other side, where is these, I don't know, percentages people are doing his work. This I don't know. It's not my business to know. I don't know. I don't care also. The human race can be compared to the human body. And just as the human body is made up of masses of individual organs, working in perfect harmony to achieve single unity encapsulated in the individual personal consciousness as we feel as I amness. This fractal principles also applies to the body of the human race, which is composed of masses of people, each with special roles. And of course, each such nation must have its rightful place on earth. But the land of Israel was given to the people of Israel. It was the people of Ishmael, the land of Arabia. We will deal later with the role of these two nations and their place in the structure of the body of humankind. Actually, if you'll be willing to read the book which I called The Story of Mankind, then the preface, I'm talking about these two nations, their role, how they're supposed to interact with each other. The children of Israel were supposed to form the spiritual circle of the people who focus on the divine, and the children of Ishmael were supposed to form a hedge, a protective wall around the people of Israel, so they can do the work. So both of them are necessary, crucially necessary, to work together. And we compare it to our musical pieces as like the union of the opposites. We have the Israel as a positive, Ishmael is a negative. If we looked at the cosmic engine, one side is negative, one side is positive. When these two interact together, and then the cosmic engine is working properly, the movement of the souls is more or less natural, rational, with the least amount of pain. These two nations are necessary, and there is a reason why both of them came from Lord Abraham, the Avatar. That was the foundation of healing of humanity. Unfortunately, it didn't work even for one day, but it's a different story. We will deal later with the role of these two nations and their place in the structure of the body of humankind. When we look at the map of the land of Israel, there is a parallel to the human body in its structure. The upper part is the head. The Sea of Galilee resembles the heart. Further along, the Dead Sea reminds us of the kidney and also its function in purifying toxins from the body. It is a small country, but with extraordinary geographical and climatic diversity. It is enough to drive an hour each way and we find ourselves in another country. The sages I learned from imply that the land of Israel is a kind of mini-earth, and that here the mechanism that would bring the earth, the plant system, and the animal system to harmony under the guidance of mankind had to be prepared. All right, I think we will stop here and continue next week. So you will be willing. Okay, I'll stop.